Okay. We are live. Hello there, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this midday or afternoon if you are East Coast time or a peculiar time zone of your particular choice for if you're catching up with us on the VODs. Thank you to everyone joining us here at Utopia. Welcome to the Pride Brunchathon presented by RK Wild with Utopia. Pride Brunchathon is a month-long charity event happening that, well, rather has been happening during this month of June, and we have been focusing on TTRPGs made by BIMPOC, performing by QTPOC every weekend this month. Pride Brunchathon is proud and happy to be raising money for Black and Pink National via Tiltify. Black and Pink National is a prison abolitionist organization supporting LGBTQIA, Two-Spirit plus people and people living with HIV/AIDS in the prison system. Their goal is liberation. They're anti-racist, feminist, queer liberationists, and anti-capitalist. Prisons are a punishment meant to oppress and divide the marginalized and prevent unity and working together. While Black and Pink does look for a better world, they acknowledge the positives of the world we live in, celebrating our love for each other, our resilience, and our power to keep moving forward in this harmful system. Black and Pink raises the voices of formerly incarcerated people as those who have been hurt by the violence of the prison industrial complex are those who understand how to break that system down. Overall, Black and Pink is an incredible organization with QTPOC at its forefront that is fighting for those who are oppressed. Currently, our goal, which we are very close to reaching, is $1,000, and we're hoping to surpass that by the end of the month. If you can't donate, make sure to spread the word and let folks know. So with the logistics and housekeeping out of the way, it is my very deep pleasure to be running the last game of this fantastic Brunchathon with a group of folks who are perhaps seasoned and also many new faces joining us in this space and streaming in general. We are proud and so happy to have some new folks in, and I'm just going to let everyone go around, introduce themselves, just name and pronouns, simple as that, characters that we are going to get into for this particular game that I'll introduce in just a second. We'll get into that as we create and play this game together. But name, pronouns, my name is Angela. I use she, her pronouns.
My name is Lexi. I use she, her pronouns.
My name is Sebastian. I use they, them pronouns.
My name is Ron, and I use he/they pronouns.
Hello, I am JJ, and pronouns make me anxious and stressed out, so please just use JJ.
Entirely valid. So with that being the case, we are going to get right into the last game, which is one I am super excited to be doing, and it is known as The Hierophant's Gone Away for a While, designed as a fever dream by Quinn B. Rodriguez. So before we get into the full play, we have to do what is expected of us and give a premise of what is this fantastic game we will be doing. As a courtesy to my players, I'd like to ask, would folks like to take turns possibly reading the premise text, or would you like me to read it all out so I can set the tone and the table for everyone? Preference?
I'm happy to read it.
Okay.
We can take turns reading it.
Okay. Would anyone else?
That sounds fine.
Yeah, I'm on board for that.
Yes. Huzzah, huzzah, enthusiasm, excitement, drama. So we will start reading off the basic premise for this game. So you are tethered, a supernatural being bound to an apartment complex. I think given our turn order, next up, who, if you would like, Lexi.
Your daylight hours are your own. Perhaps you spend them holed up in your apartment. Perhaps you venture out into the world. You appear as any human might.
In sleep, you enter the Zephyr, an ever-changing, surreal, vast sort of dreamscape.
There are rumors that the Zephyr answers only to one being of unspeakable power, the Hierophant, they who were conjured from the Aether.
But the Hierophant, it is said, has gone away for a while. And in their absence, you may roam the Zephyr with nothing to hide. You are yourself there, every beautiful and strange part of you.
Fantastic. So we have our premise. We are tethered, those who are bound to an apartment complex. And so, as a general precaution, like we try to do for all games, and folks should try and do in general, we've tried to bear in mind the kinds of things that we want as guidelines, agreements for how we want to conduct ourselves. We have some basic safety tools to help accompany that. So we have what's called XN and O tools that folks in our private chat can make use of as a way of indicating when perhaps the narrative is not going in a direction that we want to continue going, or we need the narrative for the sake of safety and comfort to just sort of stop. So writing an X in the chat would indicate full stop. We're not going to keep going there in that thread. N will mean, according to the delightful Jess of GoGG, we're nearing a nope. Let's maybe fade this to black or start like cutting out that scene right now. Or O, which is yes, please keep going. This is fantastic. And to my players, I always remind them of another delightful safety tool I enjoy, which is script change. If we reach a moment where someone suggests something and you feel like, actually, could we go back, rewind, maybe revise that, rewrite it a little bit, and then go with this idea? It's a nice in the moment kind of safety tool to give us a sense of how do we keep going forward in a way that lets us be present. This is a game we want folks to enjoy, and especially with the kind of dreamy atmosphere that this game encourages and has, we can go a lot of weird places, but none of that should ever be at the expense of one another's safety. So those are our safety tools. Those are the basics of what we need to start leading into gameplay itself. So what is gameplay? Well, first, we as a group need to decide what is our tether, the apartment complex we are all bound to in some way during our daylight hours. Whether or not we're staying there all the time, up to us to decide, but it's very much the place that's important to what daylight life is like. So, in terms of leaving it open to the table to chime in, what are the sort of amenities that we have? What's an area of the city or town it's in? And what are the kinds of public spaces and people who we interact with in our everyday lives? The table is open for folks to just chime in ideas. What do we imagine this apartment complex is like? And also, what's our relationship to one another in living? Are we living in separate spots in the same complex? Or do we have like a big co-op kind of situation going on? What are folks feeling?
I guess first question is how does everybody feel about being smack in the middle of a city versus being on the outskirts, or, you know what I'm saying, that sort of sliding scale of population? Where is everybody most comfortable?
I think I would like to live in a big city. I'd like for there to be lots of options and for it to be easy to move around. So I like that option.
Yeah, I'm used to big cities. I prefer the thriving, just the thrum of people and all sorts of just beautiful things to look at and places to go, that sort of thing, if nobody objects.
Yeah, same.
JJ,
Seems
Lexi?
yeah, it seems fine to me. I am also, like, as a player, more comfortable. I'm used to it. Also have, I grew up not in a city, but where I grew up was also not abundant with apartment complexes. So I'm okay with keeping us grounded within a cityscape if that's comfortable for Lexi and Angela as well. It sounds good to me.
Yes, I'm okay with the city. I think that that's a really cool idea, and I'm very comfortable in cities. So
I also very much enjoy cities and such, so I think that's good. We have that agreed upon as we're in an apartment complex in some form of a big city. We can always stretch out whether or not we're going like full like major metropolitan kind of city vibe, or if we're like, yeah, this is like a pretty decent sized city, but we're not like fully in the bed of New York or like Hong Kong or somewhere else like that. So big city, we'll figure out what that's going to be. What kind of amenities, what kind of elements do we want to add to this place that is our home? Do we have like a communal like pool that we're all able to get access to, or are there other things like what's part of our place?
Yeah, I was curious about that as well. I was like, okay, so now we're in a city, but my like big picture brain was like, okay, but are we like in a tropical climate? Is it the middle of winter? That'll like influence, the kinds of suggestions I'm thinking. My brain immediately went to pool as well because why not? How do folks feel about something like that, regardless of the time of year that it is? I mean, at least that could be something, like you mentioned, a common space where there's possible room for our characters to interact or pass by. Whether or not we're using the pool, it's still a possible connection point.
Yeah, I like the pool.
Yeah, I like the pool too. I also would like to have a balcony, though I don't know how folks feel about heights. I would like to be able to get a good view of the city from still within like the apartment, if that makes sense. So I would like to have a balcony. I think that'd be cool as well.
I like that as an idea, just a nice spot. Would folks be open to the idea that it's not like its own separate kind of room, but it's enough space where like if someone wanted to chill out in a chair out there and just like draw like different people like going by or different like elements of the landscape?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely like for it to be big enough for all of us to hang out on there at the same time if we wanted, but also if people want to chill by themselves at any given time.
I've lived in a few apartment buildings that have had sort of like big wraparound balconies that are it's all connected. So you kind of like separate your space with plants or with, whatever, but you still have plenty of room to open it up for parties or for group meets, anything like that. So if we want to go with like that for kind of a visual, then I think that'd be good.
yeah, I think that that would be great. I like the idea of there being like all of us are accessible by the balcony. I like the idea too that possibly we could all hang out on the balcony, but it might be a little bit of a hazard too. Like that kind of apartment where we're like, I don't know if it's a good idea, but we're gonna do it anyway. And then for the pool idea, I thought about the pool. I think the pool would be great. Definitely, if you don't like this idea either, let me know. But pools are fun, but what if like the pool was broken and has been broken? And so we have like a jacuzzi or like a hot tub that's like we're just like, okay, this is what we deal with.
Oh,
Because I like that winter idea of it being like winter in the city. But
I kind of love that where you got where you have the pool that just is in disrepair, hasn't been filled in forever. People maybe skateboard in it or do whatever. And you have this jacuzzi that's like during the summer, it's just off and you're just crunched in trying to cool off. And then, yeah, during the winter, it's just a jacuzzi. I think that's great.
I agree.
You go, JJ, you go.
I think that was a brilliant suggestion, Lexi, because in my own mind, as you were saying that, I'm picturing it like maybe it was the hot spot of the complex at one point, and maybe people have been there living long enough that despite the fact that the pool is not working, it's still the community space where people go to still hang out and interact and do their own thing, or even if it's just spending their own time by themselves, sketching or just getting sun or skateboarding in it. It's still a communal space. It's known for that.
I love that. Also, two quick notes. One, thank you to the folks who just rated us. I did not happen to catch the name of the group name coming in, but thank you for joining us for this fantastic end to our Pride Brunchathon. We just started, but it's the last show. Make that very clear. And also, folks, we just hit our goal of now $1,000.69. Nice. So thank you so much, folks who've donated. And okay, so we have a pool that's sort of in disuse at times, or like hasn't been properly cleaned in a bit, or it's just like people have been doing stuff around there. We have our balcony sort of set. We have the jacuzzi that is between no one uses it or everyone is trying to use it in the middle of the winter. I kind of want to throw in one additional thing, which is not we're not I'm not going to ever add in a landlord, but I'm kind of thinking like maybe we have a few neighbors who like are folks who are good friends of our apartment, who like occasionally like help facilitate like when folks are more in the mood to like try and have a more party kind of vibe. Maybe it doesn't have to be like full like DJ to dance party kind of vibe, unless folks want DJ dance party kind of vibe. I'm not opposed to that either, but I kind of like the idea that there's maybe a few other folks who like are good friends of our apartment group who we just get to interact with every now and then.
I like the idea of the people in the apartment being, social and communal more than the average. There was that story recently about a group of tenants who got together and bought out their landlord, turned the apartment into a co-op. And maybe we could work with something like that, where it's just by default, everybody's pitching in where they can, trying to figure out the priorities. We have this building that kind of feels like it was some hot shit back in like the 70s or the 80s. And now it's at a point where it's like everybody's pitching in to try to bring it back up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have something you wanted to add, Lexi?
Yes. I think that it'd be interesting too if you said like, neighbors who make it like if we did want to have a party, they could, be there for making it a bit more entertaining. It just popped in my mind of like college students who are just like living in the apartments with us. And so we're all like, I mean, I don't know ages, but maybe we're like adults or just, we live here in this apartment and they moved in and they are the, resident college students. So they know how to make it into a party. And we're like, yeah, we can do this. We can do that. We can hang out with them.
Like multi-generational party zone,
Oh, I like that. I like that element, multi-generational. We don't get that enough in a lot of different stories and in our communities. I love that.
One thing I would like to add in is, in addition to having it be residential space, also other kinds of, I don't know if that would be amenities or services. I was going to say like retail space, but I didn't necessarily want to make it like a capitalist vibe, but a salon where folks can go, kind of like another space that is communal, where people can go and relax and talk out things that are going on with whoever they're, whoever's taking care of them, and have that be a little bit more of a private space within the complex that's not just out in the open, where community still happens, but it's apart from it, and that there are people that are constantly within the complex, similar to your idea, Angela, of having neighbors that are still part of the scene. Having other folks that don't necessarily live in the complex or in the immediate area are still connected to the apartment complex in that way. There's other kinds of services or other kinds of, maybe there are businesses or whatever that are connected to the complex that enjoy it with us.
I like that. I kind of like the idea of it being a very like, are we like a community, not like hotspot, but like in the neighborhood, we're like one of those areas that like, if folks are kind of falling on hard times, they know that like we'll see what we can do about trying to find maybe a space in among all the apartments for folks to be in. But a community sort of impromptu like housing unit or like housing like services that we provide. We're just like, the city does not approve of this, but well, we already bought it out, so we technically own this, so they can't tell us anything.
I mean, we could always say that, like, the quote unquote board or whoever is managing sort of the co-op on the, bullshit executive level. I mean, we could say, in the spirit of what it is that we're doing here, that, we handle rental assistance based on, means and access. things like that. So, maybe we have residents that are wealthier and they pay more of their share towards a fund that can help for that sort of thing. If we have a tenant that's higher risk or is lower down the economic ladder and needs help for whatever reason, and we just have it handled that way, help people get on their feet.
I like that.
Yeah.
Just double checking. Yeah, Sebastian.
Yeah, I like the idea that there's space for anybody who needs to come, because actually last year I was in a situation where I had a friend who was who lost her housing situation, and then the pandemic was declared, and she ended up staying with me in my apartment for like 5 months, and that was actually like that was an experience, but it felt really good to be there for friends. So I definitely want that to be an aspect of it if we can.
I love that. We are a communal space for a lot of folks who maybe are on difficult times, and we maybe have tensions that are coming up at different moments for trying to handle all of that. But it seems like we're a space that's like during the day, there's maybe the stress, but also the joy of trying to figure out all of that. I like that. I love this so much. JJ, did you have anything to add?
A dog park. Selfishly, as my little one is passed out on the bed, just wanted to put that in there.
I think it'd be amazing. We could do, what if we say that we're sort of like on that weird edge of like zoning where it's like, we got this apartment building, maybe we have a good sized park next to it. And then across the street is just like, classic businesses like you see down the road, you know what I mean? And it'd be right across the street from the apartment complex. So everybody kind of knows everybody kind of, especially people that work in the same area are all connected in that way. And that gives us easy access to pretty much anything that we could want or need.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think that that's such a great idea. And I really like the dog park idea. I really like the placement of it as well. I don't know. The dog park, I was gonna chime in and be like, oh, dog park, definitely. I feel like that's perfect. Since you have enough space so people don't have to worry about, oh, I have a dog. Like I have a dog that it's been my best friend and maybe we lost our space and I don't know. Like, no, you have space. We've got you. Go hang out with my dog. We'll go to the dog park, and like that can also be a place of community as well. So
It could also be a case where the dog park is another way where folks are figuring out like kind of impromptu ways of generating money. Like some folks will do dog walking or like babysitting kind of services for some folks who maybe need to like go out for trying to find jobs and stuff, but like they obviously need someone to take care of their kids. So our space is like one of those areas where you coordinate like dropping off your kids. Like we're another like daycare center kind of like substitute or addition, like not the actual apartments, but we're space like the community spaces being talked about earlier where folks could coordinate there, and also the community space helps for more private moments of checking in about some different things or being like a impromptu salon, because I know plenty of people from undergrad were cutting each other's hair like just impromptu, and it could have just turned into one of those things where like this whole apartment complex is an apartment complex by name only. We have way more things happening here, but no one's bothering us enough to look into it.
Yeah, I like that too. I also like the idea that everybody, like, maybe when we first move in, it's kind of a communal situation whereby, what skills would you like to contribute to the community, and in what areas are you lacking in ways to support yourself, and how can we help, kind of thing. So then we get people doing things like cutting each other's hair, or taking turns cooking food, or just wherever is useful to everybody. I think that's nice.
Yeah, and I think the basic premise, what I'm taking away from all of this is like, also, this is a game where we make the rules. Like, rent doesn't need to exist.
I thank you for that reminder. It doesn't exist. Thank you. we just either it doesn't exist entirely, or it's just like, yeah, there's a moratorium on it. We don't do that here.
There was this fabled concept of it once upon a time.
And then 40 people took over an apartment complex. And I'm like, I mean, you can try and take it back. You're welcome to fail. Does anyone else have any other things they want to add to this? I want to give us enough time to flesh out characters and to provide the space to do both Daylight Hour and also Zephyr exploration. But are there any other crucial, or not crucial, but I must have this elements that must be added in from folks to the apartment complex?
I had a thought about other ways to commune or communicate, like, you know, having our mailbox station, if folks want to communicate that way without necessarily interacting in person, if that was something that anyone wanted to integrate into their characters or into the story, to have that kind of be there as an option. I think it's assumed like that's a given, but I just want to make that like introduce that clearly as a way that we could have that additional means of communication.
It's kind of cute. Although I did kind of assume that I would have a phone or similar technology, but we could have a mailbox too, because you know I do like handwritten notes.
My character kind of depends on their phone, so I assume that too.
Yeah.
No, but I like that too, because if sometimes folks want to maybe share information that's a little bit more private, that could also just be like a communal spot where like folks drop off info that folks have. There's a community agreement that like maybe it's like marked by something, or like the things that go in this box, only certain people are allowed to like check out, or like can be designated in a certain way where only like if you're going to go check that out, make sure it's like important and it's actually relevant to you beforehand. But I like that idea there. It's like, yeah, we all rely on tech, but there is something about the physical written word that is kind of nice too to keep as an element in this world.
Or like packages and stuff like that, you know, objects.
I love it. Anything else that folks want to add?
I would 100% live here if I could.
I love this. If folks are okay, we can keep going on to another important part of playing this game together, which is character creation. So there's two sets of elements when it comes to playing the Hierophant's Gone Away for a While of making your characters. One is the usual set of things that we might think about, but let's name them specifically, of name, pronouns, gender identity, orientation, hobbies, aspirations, goals, temperament, the usual building blocks to what a character might be. And then there's also choosing your paradigm, the type of tether to your character embodies with their own unique ability they can use in game. There's a variety within the book, within the text itself, that include angel demon, oracle, young god, time traveler, shapeshifter, and vampire. Folks want to just take their turn, one at a time, sort of parsing out what is their tethered? Who is this being who inhabits the kind of person they are in this world?
I think I'm going to go with, does it matter what order we do this in, or can I just kind of throw things out there?
Just do the thing. As JJ has already noted, this is very much we make our own rules. So treat it as it's free space. The structure of it is just we need to roughly do these kinds of things, but the way you get there, the path that you might walk, roll, or shamble upon in order to get there is yours to decide.
Beautiful. Okay. I think I'm going to go with, looking down the list, I was really intrigued by time traveler. So I think I'm going to go ahead and choose that as my paradigm. My character's name is going to be Martin. He, they pronouns, identifies, very similar to me, non-binary, and I think maybe that for them is a more recent decision, and they're still kind of sussing out what that means for them. Disaster pansexual in every single way. And, I think they have this idea of themselves where they want to be more present in the present, and they want to have more interactions with the people that are around them, but there's always more to do, especially during the daylight hours, of looking ahead and trying to sift out, all the infinite possible timelines. And it's just, he's always dealing with just a frazzled mess of a brain, trying to make sense of anything that they possibly can. And I think sometimes losing track of where they are, and just talking to people in a way that's almost assumes that they've been with them the whole time and they know what's going on and they know your train of thought. So I think that's kind of the character that I'm going for here, if that makes sense. I'll go ahead and change that up in my name area.
Fantastic. Who would like to follow Martin's example?
I feel like I've taken up a lot of airspace. I'm going to make some room before I jump back in.
Okay. I can go in that case. I think my character is going to be a vampire named Rayo. They use pronouns they, she, he all interchangeably. Any of them are good. I don't really think that they have like a name necessarily for a particular gender identity, just because, like, I don't know, I like to think that this is in a kind of setting where anything can happen. I don't really know that gender would exist as a thing or not. I have no idea, yeah. So yeah, I think that she definitely has a person, like a fridge in her own room, just because has to store the blood bags somewhere, and doesn't want to kind of, it says that it's like a normal thing in this setting, but still just out of courtesy, because I think that he probably lived somewhere else where they maybe weren't quite as understanding before moving into this apartment complex, and isn't sure how people would feel about it, and doesn't want to, get any contaminants in the way. So definitely has a personal fridge. Dresses in a mix of like traditional vampire stuff, so like capes and high collars, but also occasionally will wear like a kind of band t-shirt and a leather jacket. So just a mixture of a bunch of different things, with the kind of optimistic mentality of someone who spends a lot of time on TikTok.
I love this so much.
I also love Rhea's. That line says so much about who they are, their aesthetic. I love them already.
Thanks.
Next up.
I am going to be playing Shapeshifter. Is that what it's called? I believe, yes. And their name is M, full name M. Oscar. And they are, they use any pronouns, because as Sebastian or Rayo was explaining, gender? Their gender identity is nah. And they're kind of just like, just generally queer. If there had to be a word, it would just be queer, all-encompassing. And they don't live at the complex, but they're always there because they work at the salon. And that's their connection to the complex and to the people. They're not a like the person that cuts the hair. They're the person that's kind of sweeping things up and cleaning, and keeping things kind of orderly in this space. Their general temperament is, I'm picturing them as like that tia, that auntie that's kind of always in everybody's business, and kind of knows, you know, all the tea for everybody, from everyone that's living in this place. And their appearance, I picture them having a different kind of a different aesthetic every day. I don't even know, you know, to what extent this dream logic extends even during daylight hours, but I'm kind of picturing that, like a different vibe every day. Like one day they'll have like a, you know, undercut with like really long hair. The next day it'll be just like a buzz cut and kind of just be all over the place, with like really flowy top, lots of like vibrant bejeweled like necklaces, just some simple like skinny jeans, always armed with that broom, and just lots of like chunky jewelry, and a full face all the time.
So we have one canon chismosa in the group, or chismose, pardon. Because there must always be one, at least one.
Yeah, and also kind of leaning into our conversation about, you know, like multi-generational relationships in here. I picture her being kind of like middle-aged, or very much not like the traditional college age students, as we talked about college students as well. There's a noticeable age difference between who those could possibly be, if they are traditional college age students, and M.
Okay. So I think that I'm going to be playing Jeb. He uses he pronouns. Jeb is probably, I think Jeb is ace. I think Jeb is ace. Definitely just this dude. I would say if you could have a cowboy in modern age, that's what Jeb is. Probably used to be some sort of detective, and got tired of corruption, got tired of all of it, and now just walks dogs and gets all of his joy from walking people's dogs, and like probably goes out and brings people, like is really good at finding people, is really good at speaking to people, talking to people, or maybe not the most charismatic, but he can at least like figure people out and bring them into this community. So he probably goes walking his dogs and walking his neighbors' dogs, and then has conversations with people, finds out that they're struggling or finds out their situation, and then tells them that our apartment place exists, and tells them like there's hope, we bought out our place and it's something you could do, like, you know, bolstering the community a bit, but also just listens to everyone, like big listener, and then will give exactly one line of advice and think that that's like good and be like, yeah, that was it. But Jeb is definitely like definitely not wearing like a cowboy outfit, but as close as you could possibly get, like button up shirt. He's probably got like a brown leather vest and some dress pants, all pretty old, and probably does wear some sort of hat along with all of that. That's how you know exactly where Jeb is all the time. And yeah, I would say he's a pretty down-to-earth, quiet dude. He's not very rambunctious, not very out there, but he's there to listen. So, and I think I will be playing the demon. Yes, I think that's like a pretty good either angel or demon. I haven't decided which one will better fit but maybe Angel will fit Jeb a bit more. So
I'm sure depending on whoever he's interacting with, he can either be our angel or our demon. We'll see, whichever one works in the situation. And I think I'm gonna go with. Yeah, I think I know who I'm gonna go with. So I I am gonna go with Celis is her name. I think she's also similar to M, a little bit on the older side. She's a queer trans woman who I think actually she's mostly tries to keep charge whenever possible of kids in the neighborhood. Like I think if their kids ever stop by or like are there for like any kind of like daycare time, she does her best to watch over them. And I think she has mostly an asymmetrical kind of cut. She wears a lot of like basic t-shirts or like kind of business casually range kind of shirts that always strangely have a bird pattern somewhere along the range on them, and there's always these tones of red, orange, and yellow all across them. And I'm gonna lean towards playing her as a young god of protection in particular. I think she kind of in practice and in terms of what she tries to embody is a relatively new god who has just sort of ended up here and has like tried to move out beyond this apartment complex to do a bunch of huge impact in the world, and sort of came out as trans, came back and was like, you know what, I kind of just want to take care of some kids. It's kind of more what I'm interested in and what I think I'm better at. And a young god of protection. I think that's her. She's a sweetie and always has a soft spot for kids, even like if they bother her or tease her or do the things that kids just do because they're kids. But with that being the case, with all of our characters, with Martin the Time Traveler, Reo the Vampire, M. Oscar the Shapeshifter, Jeb the Angle/Demon, and Celis the Young God, we have our cast of characters, of our tethers. So now we move into gameplay, which is free form, but the basics involve the following. We all together just try and tell a story about what happens both in the daylight hours and in our hours in the Zephyr. We can, if you're playing this game when it finally comes out, which I know a bunch of people will be excited the moment that this game comes out, it should be bought immediately. You can decide whether we want to just spend some time in the daylight or roughly, here's a couple things that happen and then go straight into the Zephyr. But no matter what, once we are in the Zephyr, always remember that we operate on dream logic, and to work with this guiding principle in the text, you are yourself, uninhibited, with infinite possibility at your fingertips. So, what are folks most interested in? Do we want to do everyone gets a little description of daylight hours and then we all build into what their time in the Zephyr is like? Or do we feel like there's something that we imagine each of our characters doing with someone else in the group? As we've said before, the rules are open. We make them, in fact. So, what are folks interested in for our time together today?
I like the idea of building up the day, like just building up the day from, the start of it and seeing what all we get up to. And then if there's any, sort of scenes or anything that we feel like, oh, I think our characters would be together doing that, or our characters would interact while that's happening, possibly making that it. But I like that idea of the first one of just start from the beginning and then at the end head into the Zephyr.
Yeah, I like that idea of maybe, kind of going one by one, just a very brief sort of check-in on what you're doing with your day. Maybe even setting it at a communal setting already by default, where say like we know that, in a half hour from now, there's going to be a community party up on the rooftop where the pool and everything, the communal gathering area is. And so we can maybe use that to add like just a little bit of structure to say, this is what we're all up to leading up to that. And then we can enter into some sort of free play there, maybe.
Does that sound good to everyone? Starting off with a communal event going on.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I support this. I'm down.
Okay. If folks are okay with me getting the ball rolling, I think Celis is kind of trying to hide it very poorly, because you all probably have known her just enough to know she's not good at hiding anything like this. She's kind of flitting about the way that, like, I don't know if anyone's had that experience, but most of the QTPOC groups, so probably someone's had that experience of when like it's like the party's happening in 2 hours, right? But no one is allowed to know that people have lived here before. It has to be so clean that everything has to look like no one has ever lived here. I think she's having that effect, except it's in party planning and logistics. She's like, wait, is everyone going to have snacks? Is everyone going to do all of this? Like, wait, did we finally actually get the pool clean? Okay, the pool is cleaned. Finally, someone did it. And she's like come back from kind of a long morning working, I think, like at a shelter, taking care of some folks. So she's like already she started done and has become more done as she's arrived, thinking she has to do all of this.
I picture with Celis flitting around in the background kind of frantically from point A to point X to point L and back and forth. In the salon, you see M sweeping things up barely, but is also dancing with their broom. Some like 90s salsa tropical is playing from the speakers in the salon. You have some India, you have some Mark Anthony. It's just having a grand old time. Some of the residents or people from the community that are there being serviced kind of get up and dance as part of this moment as well, kind of in contrast. Still high energy, but very different vibe of what's going on in the back. There's just a lot of conversation. Some people are getting ready for this event that's happening in the next half hour or so. They're getting ready to close down. Maybe, whoever is running the salon is kind of trying to rush everybody out, but M is kind of just like in the moment, riding this vibe of kind of just seizing the moment, and is, once this closes down, is kind of just gonna lean that broom against the wall and join in on the fun with everybody else.
Yeah. I think that Rayo has entirely, in a very well-meaning fashion, tried to help. Sorry, is it Celes?
Celis or Celis?
Celis, sorry, yeah. So it's tried to help Celis and has offered to, I don't know, move a cooler up so that the snacks can be kept fresh or something, but keeps getting distracted. Like, I don't know, like maybe on the way up, there are a bunch of mirrors in the hallway, and they keep trying to be like, oh, can I see my reflection in this one? I have no idea. Let's see, let's try. And it's different in every mirror. And so they're being like, oh, like kind of have their phone out, taking selfies and being like, oh, let's just do the meme where I run down the hallway with a lot of mirrors, and it's like the Naruto run or something. And then they'll be like, oh, wait, the cooler is back there. I have to go and do it again. And that's just a whole thing. Like, entirely well-meaning, but also very easily distractible. And at this point, it occurs to me that I haven't actually described their physical appearance, but basically, he kind of looks like he has similar features to me, but with short kind of blue hair, basically.
I think so. On Martin's side of things, and yeah, I also forgot to describe him. He you'd never see him outside of like work boots, jeans, white shirt, V-neck, all the time. That's it. His hair is very, very long. I think he just straight up forgets to cut it most of the time. Long and brown, and he just keeps it tied back. And he's right now he's on the roof deck. He's sort of going through. He's been at this for hours, by the way. He's been going through collected boxes of Christmas lights, fairy lights, every sort of like strand of everything, and he's detangling them very slowly, and he's like mumbling to himself while he's doing this, and stringing things up along the poles and trying to get all the lighting situation figured out. And the whole way he's just saying things like, okay, I've got 753. Did I leave off on 752? The one with the dinosaurs was weird, so I'm going to call that one 753. And then he just goes blank for a good 30 seconds. And when he comes back, he goes, right, they have feathers. Okay, perfect. And he reaches down and grabs a notebook that's huge and just tattered. It is a mess. Flips open to the right page and starts scribbling down notes about where he just went to and came back from. And he just keeps, okay, that's 730. 733 was the 732 was the 734 was the feathers. Got it. Okay, perfect. And he just goes right back to detangling lights, and that's his whole steez.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I think that Jeb is...
I think you're muted still.
Oh no.
Are you muted?
No, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
That's not good.
We can hear you.
Okay.
It was me, not you.
Okay.
Yeah,
like,
sorry
oh, no.
about that.
Cool. So I think Jeb is probably watching everyone else doing like all of the preparations. Jeb probably has his cup of coffee for the morning, and he's gonna watch everyone kind of like flitting around, and he's gonna go and just get his normal morning round of dogs to walk so that the dogs can be tired and the owners can like go and have a good time at the party. So he's probably just gonna, watch everyone, walk past everyone, do a quick nod, but take the round of dogs. And these dogs basically pull Jeb. But this is like the one time in his life where he doesn't have to have everything together. The dogs are in the lead, and so he can just like let go and let them walk where they want to walk because they know their way to the dog park by now. And Jeb is probably just gonna spend some time, getting people, talking to the other people at the dog park, making sure each dog is tired, that kind of thing. If one dog, there's probably one specific dog that's like super tiny and like has so much energy. It's like you all probably look outside the window of, the apartment building, and you see Jeb like running around and like throwing a frisbee and like down on the ground with this dog, like, ha, ha, like trying to rile it up. Like the Grinch thing where he's like, whoo, whoo, like this. You just look up and you see Jeb on the ground doing that to a tiny little dog. And then at the end of that, Jeb will probably knows that people will need help sooner or later, so brings back all the dogs and then comes back up to where everyone is and is just gonna see where he's needed and fit himself appropriately.
I think probably by the time you come in, you just see that like even though her hair wasn't long enough prior to cause that effect, she has there's this 10 strands of hair scattered throughout how long her hair is that are sticking out at different angles that she can't get to go down. And she just has that look of like a woman who's just been like, oh, for the love of God, let it be over. please let me over. And like I think she's seen you at some points running through the dog park with dogs, and then like she just has the look, she gives you a look on her face, because I think she's had like 2 or 3 kids who've the last like 15 minutes have just been nearby her, and they're in the stage where kids are like asking why about everything, and she's trying to like answer all of them, and like you hear her like going back and forth between like English and Spanish, and then she's like she like starts talking to you and is like it's entirely like in very rapid Spanish, and then she's like, wait, no, that wasn't the language I wanted to use, I'm sorry. And then she's like tries to speak English again, but then there's like Spanish words that leak into like the second half of it. Like she's so scatterbrained and tired from everything, she's just like, oh no. And she just gives you a look of like, please help me, and like just stare, like just gives a quick like look over at the kids, and like there's a kid there who's just like, but wait, why is your hair stick up like that kind of way, why doesn't it go down?
Jeb just immediately is like, oh nope, come over here, you can look at my hair, and is like gonna just take off his hat and use the hat to try to lure the children over. Just like, look, it's a hat, come get it, I don't know. And I'm gonna look at you and like do that and then walk away. Try to lure them away.
While that's going on, I picture M starting to kind of assist in like chilling out the vibe that's going on in the salon, when all of a sudden her cell phone starts vibrating in her back pocket, and it just starts going off loudly. It's this really loud buzzing, and excuses herself, and then takes a moment to doesn't even pull out the phone, just excuses themselves and leaves the salon. At which point, whoever might be looking at M, I actually haven't decided if this is something that M is out about. We'll figure it out. M shifts and becomes a little fly and starts buzzing about, trying to see where things might be needed, having that caught us a small glimpse of Celeste in the back, and seeing Jeb trying to lure some children with a hat, and Martin in the back with their little housefly eyes, seeing Martin counting some things, and seeing Rayo as well with the cooler, and then stops on over to see where they might be needed the most, and reverts back and sees Celeste kind of panicking. Says, "Hey, yeah, what can I do? What do you need help with? You look like you've..."
I am no me jodes.
Everything's gonna be fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. We've got this.
Los niños me quieren preguntar por cualquier cosa.
Well, it looks like Jeb's got everything fine. So what can we do? What do you need help with? Do you need some help setting up the tables? I feel like, at the very least, what you could probably use is a little bit of a rest. Just sit down and breathe. And then get back into it.
Doesn't even say anything, just like puts a hand on your shoulder, and like, I'm thinking for anyone who's seen Into the Spider-Verse, the like hey kind of gesture of like, thank you, and then just like walks over to a nearby couch and then just kind of passes out on the couch.
Yes, absolutely. It's okay to be flustered. It happens. We have a lot going on, and at the same time, I want to make sure that you're okay.
Like she, like out of nowhere, there's like a red cup or like a glass next to her, and she's just like, just starts tapping the cup. Just not even alcohol. Just get me like Inca Cola, or get me like something, please, just something. But she's saying all of this, so like it sounds. Just imagine she's like has her face in the like armrest of the couch, and is just like draped over it, like the most deflated bean that one could imagine. It's just like,
And I look around, looking for Rayo, who I saw with some coolers earlier, wondering if those, if that cooler is full, if blood is in those coolers, or if it's beverages.
Yeah, and I think at that point I would probably have finally reached the where it's supposed to be, and I would go, "Hey everyone, looks like this party just got a lot cooler," and I would hold up the big, yeah, the big freezer, and I have definitely very helpfully labeled everything. So I'll be like, but it's not. It doesn't actually like. I think that all the drinks would have their brand names on them. So I mean, if Coca-Cola exists in this universe, then there's that. But basically, all the ones that have blood in them, there's a big label saying "Warning: Blood. Do not drink if you don't want to drink blood," with like a kind of smiley face. But the smiley face has two fangs, so it's like a vampire smiley face. Yeah. And then like at the bottom of the label, there's like, "But of course, if you do like blood, please feel free to drink it. It doesn't just belong to me." And it's like a really big label, like unnecessarily so. And I will see Celes on the couch, and I will go over and offer one of the choice beverages. It is filled of every kind of beverage you could possibly need for a party.
I'm picturing that those bottles with the blood, like those like medication bottles that you have to peel off to read the rest of the like drug information and facts.
Yeah, definitely. Like you peel it back for a list of all the ingredients in like tiny print. Yeah. So I don't know if Celes would necessarily see me if she has her like face kind of buried in the couch, but after a couple of seconds I'll be like, hi, would you like a drink?
When you said the pun earlier, I think M probably would have heard Celis like once again say no, free ideas, like, and then it's just like picks up like just sort of turns slowly, like I'm imagining almost like horror movie-esque level of like head turn of just like.
Well, here you go. You got a little something. I'll grab the bottle and kind of just I'll undo the lid of it or the bottle cap or whatever, and grab the cup and pour that for you. And after I hand that off to Celis, I'll just kind of try and gather the kids, put my hands out, and be like, okay, now come with me. Let's leave Celis alone for a little bit. And how about a little bit of this? And M will shapeshift into one of the dogs that's in the complex as well, and give them the kids a little bit of a distraction and run around between their legs, and eventually kind of start panting, tongue wagging, and then look over at Jeb as well, and start wagging my tail over in Jeb's direction.
Cool. Should be good now. I think Jeb is like was dealing with the kids before this. You definitely saw it. He just tall dude, just really gangly. These kids are like climbing all over him. And like 1 minute you look over and you see they're climbing all over him, asking all these questions. The next minute they're probably just like, this is where I think I would need to figure out the extent of this angel demon thing, but I would very much like for it to be 1 minute you look over, there's kids everywhere. The next minute you look over, they're like standing there staring up, and I'm like sitting their true form to them, like showing my true angel or angle or demon form. I don't know. And they're just like, whoa, like stared, but they're calm. And then this happens, and they see a dog, and that's definitely enough to rip them away from my true form as an angle or a demon. And so then I transform back, and I'm like, whew, do you need any more help? Like, can I do anything? And I think that the angel or the demon, they can inspire a minor positive or negative moment in the life of another based on their morals. Is that something that can happen now, or is that in the Zephyr?
I think it's just a move that can be done. As far as I'm understanding the text, slash we're making the rules and we're doing it. So yeah, I think you could do it now. At the very least, it seems like it's also something that's specific to tethers at the very least. So like I think regardless of where we're at, it's still something that affects tethers.
Okay. So then with that, I think I would just like to tell everyone, just like take a deep breath and then inspire a calming moment in Celeste and everyone else, and just, whether that's like I don't know if that would be inspiring you to just like feel a little bit more calmer, or feel like you own the moment a little bit more, and like this party is going to be a win, like it's going to be great. Or if I can actually make things happen in our world, such as like, I don't know, maybe lights and everything getting hung up for us.
Wait, does that mean like the lights that like Martin is currently working on just suddenly start flying out in the middle of them, counting them, and just start going up? I'm kind of wondering, like, Martin, what is your reaction? Is that what it is? Do I have that right?
I would like to do that. Martin, what do you think?
I love that.
I think it's great.
It's just like 799. Wait, I just had 800.
You've got the handful of the strings, and then it just like unravels itself.
Staring at this and like, okay, yeah, it's time. Yeah, it's time. And I just fully get on the ground and lay out and stretch out and just stare at the sky for a little while.
Love that.
That's a mood.
Mm-hmm.
And M will, once that calming vibe comes over, everyone, thanks to Jeb, I think M is going to go belly up and start kind of squirming, waiting for, or kind of asking for belly rubs. And then eventually, maybe if they're up for it, might start waddling over, looking for Martin, and then kind of like use their nose to kind of get Martin's attention, with a little bit of a paw, and you're laying out. So maybe we'll just sit right by you, or maybe like lean into, or like cuddle your leg to try and exude that calming vibe upon you as well. I think. How far would you say that you are from the rest of the group?
I'm probably much further away. I think I started closer to the group, stringing the lights, and I'm all the way on the other side of the building now. And I think I've just let the rest of them go. And like the moment I notice you coming by, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is good. And I kind of like let my arm out and kind of like give like a little crook of the arm so you rest your head there and just relax for a little bit, and like a little pet here and there, and say, I envy you. You just get to do this all the time. That's great, right? Yeah. That's real good. Oh man, you're in all my favorite timelines. I just want you to know that.
Wag. And I will, my actual dog is reacting to me panting. I will then see the string of lights still kind of getting strung up and kind of get distracted and start kind of following those, and maybe nudge you one or two more times, and then you'll see M start kind of scampering back, still looking up at the lights, and maybe grabbing like streamers or helping like pull chairs or anything with their snout to try and get everything finalized in order for this, whatever we're doing, which we haven't really even defined what this community event is, but kind of getting the vibe set up layout wise. And eventually we'll revert back to M and kind of finish setting things up.
What do we, what kind of weather do we want here? Like, do we want maybe closer to the holidays, or do we want, summer? Like, what's everybody feeling for that?
I kind of would like to have, like, I'd like it to be a nice kind of sunny day, but I'd like that to be a kind of a tent or like a pavilion thing that we have set up so that it's not, so that then I can be in the shade for a bit, if that works. Because we finally cleaned the pool. I think it's kind of like a good opportunity to have people be like, hey, look, finally the pool is clean. We can maybe use it this time. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the event. It's like we should all come up and celebrate the pool is finally clean and see what happens. Also, I think that while all the setup has been going on, I think that I think that I've been taking like photos and videos, and if there is a way to communicate with like the entire building, if there is like, I don't know, like a social media group or something, I'm like, oh, hey, setup is happening, get hyped for the party kind of thing. Yeah, happening very soon. Yeah, so that people know it's going to come.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lay there for just a second longer, and then I'm going to sort of go wide-eyed and glassy for a minute. And go, right, okay. And I get on my feet and I go like towards the nearest clean water, and I get a washcloth and wring it out, nice and cool and damp. And I walk over to Celis, and I just sort of gently place it on her forehead, and I say, just in case it goes bad in 2 hours. It might not, but just in case, this should help.
I think with getting her a drink, with Jeb being just Jeb, like not even specifically the lights, just being Jeb, and Rio just sort of going over and enjoying themselves, because I think for Celis, there's just a sense for her. It's like Rio's gonna do whatever he's gonna do. They're just gonna be however they're gonna be. She's gonna do whatever she wants to do, and she's okay with that. She's like, no, I wouldn't. It's kind of, it's not mean, but like her judgment is, I don't actually expect Rio to be helpful. Rio, if they are, it's great, but it's not her expectation.
It's valid.
I think she finally like has a sense, like with the washcloth on her head, of like, you know what? I will not let today be a bad anxiety day. We got everything set up. Everything's ready. And like looks over in the direction of M and like says to herself, I heard that music earlier. And then like walks over. I'm imagining like big speakers, and there's just like I think it's like Celia Cruz just suddenly comes on really loud, and it's like La vida es un carnaval, just starts playing super loudly. And it's just like, all right, if you're not in the pool and you're not talking or just hanging out in your own space, you have to dance. This is the rule. There are no exceptions to this. I don't care how you have to do it, you have to dance.
I'm currently just trying to figure out if Jeb is gonna dance or if Jeb jumps into the pool fully clothed. I think Jeb can be persuaded into dancing, though. I think he'll dance a little bit, but he's a little, he's a little slow at it.
You could jump into the pool fully clothed and then dance in the pool. You could do both.
Yes, I would like to mix both of the actions. Dives into the pool. You just see Jeb is just like dancing while floating.
M is just going to ride off with a vibe with Celis as well, and kind of look out. And at this point, I assume maybe some other folks in the complex have started helping with the setup as well, starting to hype folks up with dancing and reiterating what Celis said. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to know how to dance salsa. You don't know how to dance any of this stuff. Just energy. We want energy, right? And once that she's gone around to a few people and has done that, they're gonna skulk off to a corner, and seeing on their phone that has buzzed that there's a notification or whatever that Rayo sent out, is gonna go ahead and shapeshift into a little Tweety bird or a Twitter bird and go around to the windows of all the apartments in the complex and kind of do a little tweet to kind of let everybody know that things are about to vibe and pop off downstairs, and eventually fly over the pool and then shapeshift directly into some kind of aquatic animal and dive in with Jeb and start kind of splashing around in there as well. I'm really enjoying this, even though they have like no real. I'll finish that thought later, but I'm enjoying this.
What's Martin doing? What Celis just basically turns into the abuelita who's like had like 3 drinks and is like, we're gonna be fine. Like everyone just stands. So like consequences, we'll deal with that later. Like what happens at that point for Martin?
Martin is sitting on the arm of the couch and he's just kind of vibing with the music and like head nodding and then stops every once in a while and then goes back to head nodding and then stops and shakes his head and looks at you and says, just tell me I don't 800, almost 800 today, almost 800. It's a lot. Tell me I don't need to write them all down.
I think for both Rio and for Martin, so one of the things that the young god gets as their future is divinity incarnate. You're aligned with an aspect, a concept, a domain, a virtue, a vice. You're able to manipulate this aspect within the world in minor ways. I think there's like a little like almost like, if not a swimsuit, then like a cloak that still fits the overall vibe of Rio's outfit suddenly appears, and it looks like it has a kind of feathery texture to it. But if Rio puts it on, we'll notice like you can walk in the sunlight, and it doesn't bother you at all, like whatsoever.
That's cool.
Like, it'll only last for the extent of the party, but it's like she's a god of protection. So one of the things is she can make sure that Rio can just chill out and do whatever can indulge in full Rio vibes as needed.
Oh, thank you. So I'll definitely take that and put it on instantly, and I'll be like, oh, thank you. This is great, and just instantly start being like, yeah, like this is a vibe, and just kind of moving around to see how it moves. Also, yeah.
And I think for Martin, there'll be like this little like pin that just suddenly pops up, and like right in Martin's hand, and it says 800 on it. And it's like, knowing you forgot to count 1 because you don't give yourself enough credit. So it's probably 800 today. You're good. Like, but it just says 800, but you just hear her like through it. Her voice connects to that, and it's just that. And she by the way, she's in the middle of dancing with like 2 other like women at that point. It's like full like well, Abuelita's not coming back for a couple of hours kind of vibe. She needs to go talk with her ladies.
I imagine like gliding through socially and taking care of everybody and that sort of thing. Martin takes the pin and immediately puts it on his shirt and says, good enough for today. Where did I put? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. And then he just heads off to go to the beverage table.
And at the beverage table, I think you would find M that has united with some other residents of the building that have just cooked up a storm. They're setting out all the food trays on all of the tables, making sure that nobody is hungry. Just have a little sight, just a little snack, a little bite of something to eat. And they serve you like a full plate, mounding over with a second plate in the other hand. And someone's on the grill as well. And it's just making sure that there's enough of food and beverages and blood bags available for anyone that wants to partake, to make sure that this is just a good vibe to celebrate the reopening of this pool. At which point, once things seem kind of set up with their other neighborly chismosas in the building, we'll go back into turning into a fly, and it's just going to be flitting around, basically becoming the fly on the wall to listen in on all the conversations of everybody, to kind of figure out what's going on within the building, to see where people might need some aid, or if anyone's a little too nervous to interact, to try and figure out ways that could help create further community. Also be a little selfishly nosy as well.
What if, I just want to throw this out there, what if Martin and Muscar play a little game, maybe like further in when you've gotten all the cheese made that you wanted to get, and then we play a game of, does this happen or does this not happen? And I can, you know what I'm saying? Where you can throw out little things and like, is it going to work out for them? And I can take a quick look and tell you.
Oh my God. This is totally something that we've already done a lot. And
totally,
that's
yeah.
exactly why I was doing this. Because I also picture there's like the dominoes table where people are just like having a time drinking and playing. And there's also some like poker and gambling. So maybe we don't necessarily gamble with money, but I like this idea of this little game. What are some things that maybe I learned about? And I would say if anyone else here wants to kind of just contribute, like just spontaneously introduce something that I may have heard, I'm totally down for that too.
I think when I gamble with this group, I gamble with chores and tasks.
I think that gambling would be very interesting in the sense that I have a move that allows me to detect the quickening of a pulse and catch someone in a lie. So if we're playing poker and someone's like bluffing, I'm going to be sitting there like, I know you're bluffing, and I will somehow win an inordinate number of games. And it's because I have vampire senses telling me that people who are really bad at lying.
That's perfect.
I don't know if that's necessarily gossip, but that would be something you have noticed over the time that we've been gambling together. And occasionally I'll like maybe throw a game so that it's not too suspicious. Also because it does kind of suck to be the person left having to do every chore all the time. So, yeah. But in many respects, it's probably better that I don't, because I will start the chore, but then inevitably get distracted and then remember like 3 hours later and then finish it in 2 minutes. But like, it's not that helpful.
Mood.
Executive dysfunction's fun. Jeb, did you have something you wanted to contribute either to the gossip or Jeb-related incidents?
I feel like this is where Angle Devil comes in. I think that Jeb is like having a very fun time, like watching you all, like absolutely knows the antics everyone can get up to. I really feel like this is the moment where Jeb shines, which is where like going around talking, like people talking to Jeb and just like unloading, like they're not even on, like offloading, but not in the sense of like it's a burden, but being able to talk to him, and like where you might see like a crossroads demon being like, oh, you want to make a deal with me or whatever. It's like not exactly like that. He's like offering therapy, but in a crossroads demon kind of sense of like, if you leave your anxiety about this with me, then you can benefit from this deal by, you know, knowing that you made the right decision here, or knowing that you'll have, you know, something will come in the future or whatever. So I feel like that's probably what Jeb is doing, is just walking around and like doing the stage, catching up with everyone, but definitely like keeping a drink in his hand while he like drinking a hand, dancing a little bit, but like talking to people, letting them tell him their problems, and then being like, well, you know, I could make a deal with you. I could just, you know, take that fear that you have about that, and you can just, you know that your apartment is this, or that you're going to do this in the future. And I have all my friends to back me up on that kind of thing. And I can make good or bad things happen. So it's like, maybe it will happen. Maybe I'm making fair deals, you know?
I think maybe for some of that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's when I kind of look over, I overhear this, and maybe I change back and I kind of give an eye over to Martin's like, does it happen? Does it not happen? They said it was going to happen. Maybe it'll happen. Is it going to happen?
Yeah, I think I'm standing by Jeb and by M, and I'm as Jeb, as you're making these deals and you're doing these things, I'm sort of like the certificate of authenticity, where I'm like, yeah, that's definitely going to happen the way you want. Like, you're fine. Or like, maybe, okay, maybe don't take away their anxiety over school, because that's going to come in handy probably sometime in like 3 months. So that, like, that one, you should keep that one, but the rest of it, it's fine.
And I think that would be where, if it feels like, oh, I probably shouldn't take that away, that would probably be something where using my angelic demonic nature to just like push and pull tides and things, like, okay, well, maybe you still, you're feeling some sort of way about this, but I bolster you with a little bit of confidence about what you know, because maybe that's just what you're lacking right now, is that, oh, you're lacking the confidence that you can take this test and be fine. That way it's like I'm not completely changing the tides of things, but I'm just like, I'm pushing and pulling where I can. We've got our own little thing going on.
I think with all that happening, I think Celis is just like, any impulse she has to want to be like, we also, me as a player, I'm losing my shit over the idea that the Chismosa has gained a new tier of power. That's frightening to me, and I'm also, that's amazing. But I think she's like probably like chills out at any given point when Rio takes a break, like goes out to just spend the last bit of her dancing energy with Rio, and is just sort of like, how do people just relax all the time? Like, how do they do that? How do you do that?
It's a vibe. I don't know. Wow. I gotta explain the concept of a vibe. I mean, you were dancing over there. That's a great vibe. I don't know. It's the sense that everything is kind of gonna be okay and it will work out. I know that there's a lot of stressful things that happen on a very day-to-day basis, but if you I'm just able to ground myself in the knowledge that things will be okay, and ultimately, and sometimes it's not okay in the moment, but at the end it will be. And then if it's not the end yet, then it's if it's not okay yet, then it means it's not the end, right?
Rio, I have to ask you for an important thing to teach me.
Sure. I mean, I don't have
you
experience as a teacher, but
how do you vibe check?
It's more of an intuition thing. I don't know if it's like a thing you can do. It's like, I feel like Celis has very good intuition. So I'm going to be like, you should kind of lean into that. You have a very good natural instinct for things. I see it in the way that you take care of people, and it's very clear to me that you have an innate understanding of the things that are happening around you and of the people that are happening around you too. So it's just a matter of listening to that, I think. And right now the vibe says that this is a great song to dance to, and whatever it is, and then we can just go back to dancing.
Yeah, I think she's the most at ease she's been after Rhea said that, and that feels like, if folks are okay with that, maybe a point to just take a little bit of a breather, like about 10 minutes, as maybe this is the point where, like, nearing the end of the evening, folks, she's mosaing in one section and taking, apparently being a impromptu therapy demon and a helpful time travel checker, and vampire just vibing with the stressed out god of protection, and maybe that's as one does, and just sort of leave that as the moment where, like, that'll like move from ending the night into time of sleep and moving into the Zephyr for our second half. So yeah, thank you everybody. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, and we'll see you soon. Everyone wave, and we'll move on over to break. Hello there, everybody. Thank you so much if you are either coming in just right now or you've been with us for the whole of the time here. This is our Back to Pride. Welcome back to Pride Brunchathon. This event has been presented by RK Wild and Utopia, and we've been raising money for Black and Pink via the Tiltify link you'll see in chat. Black and Pink National is a prison abolitionist organization supporting LGBTQIA, Two-Spirit plus people, and people living with HIV/AIDS in the prison system. Their goal is liberation. They're anti-racist, feminist, queer liberationists, and anti-capitalist. With their actions, they seek to break down the prison industrial complex that divides and separates families and those who are oppressed by the systemic issues within our society. If you can, please continue to join us in raising money for the cause, as we have reached our goal of $1,000, and we are so grateful for that and happy to see whatever more folks can do for this. And if you want to keep the hype for this going, share that we are in our last bit of our last game for this month. But oh my god, thank you so much everyone for contributing and just being here to watch us indulge in a bit of queer joy and queer found family, as we have been playing a game that is currently in beta that is known as, pull up the exact title because I want to get it right, is The Hierophant's Gone Away for a While, a fever dream by Quinn B. Rodriguez. And so our delightful crew of the Crossroads therapist deal-making demon, our vibe check vampire, the most helpful time traveler Chismosa support, and our shape-shifting Chismosa just flitting around while the abuelita young god of protection is just trying to enjoy herself after a really long day of planning, is now moving into the other part of this game, which we've had our time in the daylight, where we are tethered to this apartment complex. And now, as we drift into the world in which dreams invite us to make our own path, do we now enter the Zephyr? The Zephyr is an ever-changing, surreal, vast sort of dreamscape. The guiding rules here are we work on dream logic. We can feel free to move beyond between the common wind, accessible to everyone, or if we had an oracle and you're playing this on some future occasion, because this game should get more support and will be hyped up by probably all of us, you can move to playing with an oracle to reach the higher wind, where in the higher wind, even dream logic gets broken and the space gets to make real and manifest even abstract concepts as breathing poetry. So, as we move into the Zephyr, what starts this off for everybody? I have an idea, but I'm more than happy to wait on that idea for anyone else who would like to go.
I mean, my idea was just going to be, we all had such a great time at the party, we go back to our apartment and collectively just collapse. But your idea is probably better.
No, I was just imagining what her first steps in the dream space are of the Zephyr is. I didn't know if anyone else had any ideas of what their character does as they emerge into the Zephyr, or if also your character changes appearance or shape or anything as they enter, because as we are not anymore amidst the mortal realm, we are free from the boundaries of what the apartment complex might allow us to be.
Yeah, I think Martin absolutely follows suit. Had a wonderful time, was able to put it down a little bit, and even still using their power, didn't get so wrapped up in it, kept touching the 800 pin on their chest just to remind themselves, it's okay to not write all these down. It's okay to not keep track sometimes. And I think as I go under and emerge into the Zephyr, I am just a huge bed sheet, and I'm just wafting kind of back and forth on the breeze. And you see a very big, just drawn on with Sharpie smiley face, and just drifting nice and slow down to the ground and spread out. maybe on a big patch of grass.
Anyone else, or should I take the reins and go forward with mine?
You can go forward with yours. I kind of want to get an idea of how it would go. Yeah.
I think for Celis, there's a bit of a split that happens for her, where there's one part of her that is actually like, I think whatever lines in her face that may have existed, whatever signs that she's lived probably some level of stressful or difficult life, kind of fade away. And there's one aspect of her that has almost a childlike glee, and like from behind her back there's these big massive bird wings, phoenix ones, that emerge, where she's just sort of flying around and very carefree and happy. It's like there's no semblance of that person who was anxious and worried there. There's just sort of like flying, and even occasionally like at random, like appearing out of thin air, almost like little bird perches that look like a bed of lavender blooms, just sort of appearing right there. These bright, vibrant, like hues of blues and purples. And then I think there's also another part of her that anyone looking to see this split off section of her is still her, but it's her as she actually sees herself in the everyday, but wearing what I would best describe as the fantasy trope of like a paladin with a full set of gleaming kind of plate armor, but sort of styled all up along the left side. It almost looks like if a bird had set its wing across its body, the coloration looks like it has a red, orange, and yellow detail design that looks like a bird pattern leading up to the leftmost pauldron. And I think you just see her outside of a church that doesn't look like a church from somewhere in her everyday life. It's like a glass citadel that's there. And she's just sitting at a table with what look like a couple of kids, but they don't look like kids from the daylight hours. They look like, the kids look remarkably like her. And I think she's just there, just having food. That part of her is having food with the family I think she wasn't always able to have in the daylight hours.
M was, as the evening went on, making sure everybody was fed, making sure that everybody was doing okay, grabbing beers or beverages for anyone that was, playing spades or dominoes or poker or anything, and eventually realized that, he was so tired himself, and decides, everyone's okay. It's going to be my time now. I'm going to eat. I'm going to stuff my face. Does so, feels very refreshed, very satiated, sated, feels good. And eventually, as the evening wears down, gathered up the food and the aluminum tray pans with some of the other tias and some of the other folks in the community, and goes back to one of their apartments, since M doesn't live in the complex, and is helping clean up, the way dishes, washing dishes, making sure that those folks are able to enjoy the rest of their evening. And then, still feeling very full, kind of takes a moment to breathe, stares into the soap suds of the sink, and then decides to take a little breather and just rest their eyes on one of the chairs in the living room, and just falls into a deep food coma as they drift off into the zephyr. At which point, the environment doesn't necessarily matter as much to her, but her appearance is something that also kind of constantly shifts, but also doesn't make sense, as dream logic doesn't necessarily make sense. I picture this constant shift depending on what's going on around her, looking like a regal dragonfly, very much like insectoid wings that are translucent and transparent, with some kind like a crown, and a gown with a really long train. Very composed, as opposed to the chaotic energy that Em was providing during the daylight hours. Em is much more composed in this sense. Still very much, whatever environment they're in, peering out of a window, but instead of seeing what's immediately out of the window, sees everything and kind of gets the vibe of, what's going on around them, what might even be going on in the daylight hours. Still very much capturing that chismose element. Other moments might be still a very composed sphinx-like appearance, basically taking on different forms, different elements of different creatures in one body, depending on what's going on, kind of resting very calmly, paws crossed in front of them, spread out wings with a long mane of hair, and kind of using the Zephyr as a place to kind of regroup after committing a lot of chaos during the day.
I think Jeb, after a long day of making not even a long day, but after making all of his deals, absolutely goes back. He's probably got a little journal that he writes down. He updates with like everyone and how they're doing in the apartment. It's purely for himself, but he just, updates it and makes sure that, he keeps it that's a good way of putting it. He just updates it. He falls asleep. He gets back to his apartment, it's empty. Like he goes and he takes care of all of like the puppies and kids and everything, and he comes back to his place and it's completely empty. And he falls asleep in his little bed. He's too tall for it, like legs hanging over the bed, but he's got a cover that's big enough, and that's what matters. He enters the Zephyr, and you don't see tall, lanky, kind of war-torn Jeb. You see a younger version of him. You see a small boy, carefree, kind of just short black hair, eyes. I'm leaning into this angled demon thing, but one eye is this like milky white, and you see a wing coming from one side of him, the other eye just like red, and on the other side you see he's got like not even the other side, but he's just also got a tail. But he looks free, like he looks happy, unburdened by the height of sadness, or the highs of happiness, but also the lows of sadness. He just seems very free. He walks among tall grass and makes his way through, and he walks up to a horse. You just see this like wild horse, and I know that this is not a thing you can do in real life, but it's dream logic. He gets on the horse and he just races and feels the wind in his hair. He feels no weight of any of the deals he's made. Essentially, he's able to just be young and be free of everything that he was tired of in the like real world. But yeah, you just see a very young version of him. He's smiling, he's happy, he's on a horse just racing and feeling the wind. He's probably seeing his friends, and maybe he's seeing his friends, I don't know. But instead of it just being like a long spanning grass landscape, it's more so like it is going in front of him, like it's moving in front of him. He's creating it as he's racing and able to move and like make rivers for him to jump out, like bends and stuff for him to go past, and ravines to jump over, that kind of thing. It's just very freeing for him, and he just gets to be young and happy and free.
Yeah. I think that Rayo would show up by like dropping through a I don't know, like a void opens up in like the airspace around like above everybody, and they would kind of come through like kind of head first but hover in the air for a bit, although there's like although I don't think there's gravity, so it would just appear that they're kind of literally hanging upside down, like having, you know, it's a vibe of some description. I think that they would look a little bit more closer to human actually than they do look in the apartment complex, and it's because because they were previously a human before they were vampires. So and I think that we've spent enough time together that you would know that. So that's kind of closer to their true form. I think that she's probably wearing like a black kind of sleeveless tank top that just says "I don't bite," and on the back, "Unless you want me to," with like a winky face, but with like with sharp teeth out of the winky face. So yeah, because he doesn't tend to wear short sleeved clothing much outside of the apartment just because of the whole daylight issue. Although I think today he's made a kind of dream-like replica of the cape that Celis gave earlier in the day. Because they were like, oh, this is a really nice present. Also, this is a really cool cape, and like she made something that fit me exactly. I want to keep it around. I'm in a dream, and I want the cape. So, yeah, it's that.
With everybody's permission, what I'd like to do is, as I'm laying on the grass as just this big, huge bed sheet with a big smiley face drawn on with marker, I have these two cartoon arms that basically come out, and I think what I'm trying to do is I'm taking sort of like the timelines past and future from everybody that I'm friends with here, and I'm just sort of like detangling them, making sure that they don't get all, you know, that there's no interference, that everything is still running smoothly, that it's just like and they're all kind of like different textures. So you have some that look like balloons, some are straight up spaghetti noodles, you have weirdly solid columns of differently colored smoke, like it just all these things and all these knots. And I think maybe this is something that they do maybe every few days, once a week, somewhere around there in the Zephyr. And it's just sort of like a relaxing, you know, and it's a relaxing counterpoint to earlier when he was stressed out with detangling the lights and dealing with bouncing back and forth. And here he can just kind of casually detangle and de-stress. And I think every once in a while, maybe yells over to somebody and says, hey, if you want just like a nice split second, like your best memory, I'll give you a slice of that if you want, just for, you know, after party dessert.
Oh my gosh. I 100% will go for that. I'm going to be like, yes, please cleanse my timeline.
Excellent. Yeah. I take like the big knotted ball and I start detangling it pretty quickly. And I come up with a nice one. I'm like stretching it out, like examining it like fabric. And I'm like, okay, not there. I got it. And throw it away. And I grab this other one and I detangle it and I stretch it out. I'm like, okay, yeah, perfect. And then I just kind of pinch off and in my hand flicker this little ball of multicolored light and just kind of, you know, just gently lob it at you and say, it's yours, enjoy it.
I'll definitely kind of catch the orb of light and I'll just kind of take it with both hands and kind of press it into my chest like that. And then it will make me kind of glow as the memory comes in. And I'll kind of close my eyes and just take the moment to enjoy and remember it. And then you can see once it's kind of finished, like replaying, that like the glow kind of disappears and I'll be like, oh, thank you. That was really nice too.
As many as you
very
want.
Kind. Thank you.
Time is infinite. We got tons of it.
M will, I guess, step onto the blanket or be near the blanket. I don't know if that would hurt. I don't know if pain exists in this dream logic. But we'll approach the blanket. How about that? And say, you know, Martin, you do so much in helping us kind of relive the moments that bring us joy or moments that we want to think back on for whatever reason. I'm curious, could you share one of your favorites with us that we could maybe join you in?
He thinks about it. You see the smiley face goes into a sort of like thoughtful face, and then the blanket sort of slowly merges into my usual form. I look exactly the same in the Zephyr as I do in reality. And I nod and I say, yeah, I can show you this one. And I start digging in my pockets and just pulling out almost like scraps of memory, little pieces of shiny paper and foil almost, until I finally grab one and I'm like, okay, yeah, I think this would be nice. And I hand it over to you, just complete trust.
I will grab it, and I will kind of look at the rest of the group and ask, if it's all right, if everyone is interested to kind of explore and share this memory of Martin's that we can all maybe witness and observe together.
Yeah.
And so I will do a little basketball spin and kind of just toss it into the air. And as it goes into the air, it lights up much like the multicolored orb that Rayo had. And then around us, I'm imagining my shapeshifting can kind of extend to allow our environment to kind of shapeshift as well. And then, since I believe that we can only observe, right, with your ability?
I think so, yeah. So we're entering the common wind territory, I think, mechanically, and yeah, it's really just observation. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that I can't remember if you said that you were still blanket or if you had already changed into your regular form, but either way, if the blanket still exists and you are also there, I'll use my shapeshifting to not only take on the form of an animal, but maybe within this area I can shapeshift into really anything. And if there's a blanket already below us, I have no idea what this memory is, so it might not even be appropriate, but I'm going to shapeshift into a picnic spread on this blanket, with comfort foods and things for us to kind of be able to share in this moment with Martin together, including what looks like a bottle of wine, but it is labeled blood.
For this memory, where do I want to go with this? I'm going to say this is a memory from the distant future, and it's. I'll say that it takes place on top of our building, but it's all very sort of like the image is imperfect because you're not experiencing it as Martin, but it's clear, just sort of like twinkling on the edges a little bit. And I think you're all looking out on I want to say it's completely dark outside. It's the sky is sort of that that pre-sunset sunrise, sort of like a little bit gold, mostly purple, light blue. I'm talking about, like that mishmash of color. This is it's a building very similar to ours, and we are on the Pacific coast. We are in Los Angeles, and we are watching, I think, what Martin considers to be the most beautiful sunrise that he has ever seen in any vision of the future or the past that he's ever had. It's beautiful. There's just a sort of dash of clouds, here and there. The birds are out. You're not hearing a lot of traffic like you might normally expect. It's very weirdly calm and still. You can hear sort of the distant crash of the Pacific as it ebbs and flows from the shore. Watch as the sky gets slowly warmer and brighter and warmer and brighter until the sun is finally crested above the above the waves. And it's all this is all reversed because it's sunsets are the thing for the Pacific coast, but here you're experiencing a sunrise.
This is beautiful, Martin. I think that it's very similar to what I dream about, what I hope to achieve, and really all I want for everyone, which is peace and tranquility. And that's kind of what I'm picking up from this. And I'm glad that I could share this with you, and that you felt comfortable sharing this with us.
So much of hundreds, thousands. I see, some days I get a few, some days I get so many that I can't even count. And they don't all end well. I got to be honest, they don't all end well, but sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't end. Sometimes things go beautifully right, and you can not only have the life that you want, but everybody else will go along with you and accept it for what it is, and will just give you what you need. And you can sometimes in these timelines get nourished. And I keep them all in my left pocket. Those are where the good ones go. They stay there. And I think if I didn't have these, I don't know what I would do, but I do. And I don't have to think about that. And that makes me happy.
God, I have a response, but I also want to see if Lexi, do you or Rio have a response to that? Because I have an idea that I want you to do.
Yeah, I do. So did you want me to do that first before you did yours, or?
Why don't you go first? Because I have something to
Okay.
build off of what Martin just said, but why don't you go?
Oh, okay. Because I think I would say, wow, that's absolutely gorgeous. I've never seen one that looked. I've seen a few sunrises, but I've never seen one that was quite like that. There's something different about it. But you mentioned that you keep all the best ones in your left pocket, right?
Sure do.
Do you find that is it very tempting to just replay all of your best memories and keep doing that forever? I think I would get stuck doing that if I had the opportunity.
Do you remember, I want to say, time is hard to pin down sometimes for me, but I want to say maybe about a year ago. And there was that period for maybe about 2 or 3 months. It was hard to get me out of the apartment for anything, hard to get me out of my apartment specifically. I was having a rough time. My, somebody very close to me passed away. And it was the first time that somebody, sometimes you lose grandparents, sometimes you lose people that you weren't so close with sometimes. And this was the first time I had ever lost somebody that really mattered to me. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't think I could talk to anybody. I didn't think that I could, survive it by just going on as normal. And so I did that. I sat in there, and daytimer's effort, I was traveling in memories that I knew that I could get to easily. And, it was tempting. It was very tempting, but
because,
I remember when all of you, when everybody was concerned and all of you checked in together, and, it was very low key, and we all had a little potluck, and there was no expectation and there was no pressure. And I think after that much time spent living only in memories and only in different times and only in the experiences that I couldn't share any longer with anybody else, I think it was good. I think it was the perfect time to realize that goes hollow eventually. You can't make memories off memories. You have to live in order to find the things that mean something again. And so yeah, I was tempted, and I don't recommend it. I think it's better this way.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. It's like lying in bed reading old text messages.
Yeah, yeah. It can be satisfying, scratch a little itch, but it's junk food for the soul, you know?
But it's comforting to know that it's there. So thank you for sharing it. Thank you for
Yeah, of
sharing that.
course.
Would you like to imagine a not so good memory being better for when kid or otherwise? Martin?
You know, why not? Why not? There are definitely memories that I could do without. And yeah, you know, I trust you. Why not?
I think what is your memory, specifically something related to being a kid, and if it's okay with Martin and everyone else, if anyone else wants to share a memory of a kid that wasn't so good, there's a reason for this, specifically related to what Celis's ability as a young god is.
I think for Martin, it's a memory of, I think he was riding bikes with a few friends and just like really trying to fit in and trying to, put himself out there. I think he was a shy kid for a long time, especially not comfortable with always being referred to as like a guy, and didn't have the language or the experience to know what to do with that yet. All he knew was that it was like it's time to put yourself out there and at least get an experience that way. And I think that went really poorly for him. I think that he was the butt of the joke for most of the day, and like he didn't quite click in socially, and didn't catch in all these inside jokes that people that were already in the group had already established. And I think really the moment that broke his heart was when he finally twigged onto the fact that he was that it was himself, that he's the one that was the butt of these things, and that was the one that didn't fit in, and that it wasn't a misunderstanding of perception. It was that people can be shits. And I think finally having a hard first lesson in that, and riding home in the middle of being with this group, just deciding to turn around and walk away, get on his bike and go home, and just cried all the rest of the evening in his bed.
Are there any other memories folks would feel comfortable sharing? Do not have to if you are not interested or would prefer not to.
I think that Rayo's is of waking up for the first time and realizing that she had become a vampire, and that does fall into the category of childhood because they became a vampire at like age 17 or something, like something ridiculously young like that. So it was, I think, it was a choice that they made more out of survival than out of anything else, because if that hadn't happened, then I think he would have died. But it's still a very strange kind of unfamiliar feeling of waking up and feeling that something is off, and trying to eat like human food and it not being satisfying in the way that they used to. So that's probably the memory that you would get.
Lexi? Jeb, rather.
I think Jeb probably is this any child or
any memory you have of childhood that didn't feel particularly good to remember. It's just using sort of Martin's ability just to pull out that moment.
I think that Jeb probably remembers Jeb probably remembers his dad. He probably remembers his dad working very long hours. He probably remembers sitting around and watching TV, watching old westerns and movies. Those were probably the only movies that his dad owned were like westerns for some reason. He just really loved it. And young Jeb sitting and watching them for hours, waiting for his dad to come back home, thinking, he'll be home tonight for dinner. And then dinner comes and goes, and he makes himself something small, and falls asleep watching all of these westerns. And probably this memory is just of his birthday specifically. Of his birthday, he's turning 13 or something, and he thinks like today is going to be the day that dad is going to come home. Things are going to be, great. We're going to have my cake, and he probably makes the cake himself. He wants to take all the work so that it's work out of it. So he just has to be here. He just has to show up. He doesn't have to worry about the cake. He doesn't have to worry about the gifts. I've already saved up and got myself all my comics I want. He doesn't need to work. And he probably just sits at his dinner table and waits for hours and waits for hours. And that is probably the moment that he realizes like he wouldn't wish this feeling upon anyone. And he just eats his cake and goes to bed and acts like nothing happens the next day. But that's probably the memory.
As Celis is asking that of everyone, M has just been, no, I don't have anything to share. And as Jeb is sharing about their memory of a birthday, one of the apples in the picnic basket kind of falls out of the basket, and M starts sharing with you very briefly a memory of a birthday of M's as a kid, where M and one of M's siblings share a birthday, but M is the younger child. And the family would always host parties for the older sibling, and everybody would be outside, music would be playing, there would be lots of fun being had, lots of food, just pure celebration. But M was never able to partake in this. So they'd be spending their birthday inside, staring out of a window, watching everybody else, which has since influenced a lot of how M navigates different spaces, and why M always wants to kind of be in the know.
First off, thank you everybody for sharing such very beautiful moments. This is the reason why I wanted to ask about it. I think because Martin, you described it as sort of like an orb of light that is that's sort of capturing the happier moment that Rio got, and then similarly it could work to be like an orb of light holding these like negative memories.
Yeah, certainly. I think it can take any form that you like it to. It's all very malleable.
Yeah, I think Celis actually holds on to every single one of those for a moment, and then just sort of like the way someone might like throw out like glitter out into the air, or like just spread out a set of cards along a table. She spreads out her hands to let the orbs of light float up in the air. And as she does that, like the armored version of herself appears and just sort of overlaps with the young, carefree version. And you watch as like feathers grow out of the back of the armor, and it's like a roaring flame. Each of them becomes a little spark that sets down into different parts of the landscape around us. And you watch in one spot, there's a memory of a young Jeb there at a table, but there's a birthday cake. There's another There's another older individual there now. Two individuals. One Jeb recognizes and the other one Jeb probably doesn't. But it curiously looks like maybe what an adult version of a Celis would have been like in another life. Just sitting there and like you're hearing Happy Birthday being sung like in the background. And there's like, you just hear kids' laughter for Jeb's moment. For Rios, there's if you're okay with me imagining the stereotype of a rising out of the coffin kind of
Yeah,
moment.
go ahead.
There's somebody like waiting there with you who also looks who like has a very happy, bright smile, and is sort of like the more emotionally comforting version of the Captain America meme of, so you decided to deal with this. Like there's a mentor there who's like, you just hear bits of conversation where she has like one shaved side of her head and the other half it's like hair that's like, think big punk like singular spikes, but they look like feather plumes. And she's just like, so this is a lot. You want to talk about it and have a sense of what life might be like after this point. And she's just comfort the whole time. For M's moment, you see this big banner across like this massive kitchen that's just has M's name on it all across, and their sibling's name as well. And there's like huge like music going on, like the stuff that like the abuelitas like just play regardless if the kid likes the music or not, but it's such a big family vibe going on, and it's like getting doted on by everyone. But there's one especially like woman there who looks kind of like a family member. Maybe it's just like a tia who you haven't seen, who also has red, orange, and yellow dress the entire time, just flitting about. And then for Martin, there's like the moment of that realization of the kid. And then there's another kid there. Who is a much more masculine, younger version of Celis. Almost unrecognizable entirely. But there's something in the face that maybe was like if Celis was a boy. And just kind of walks up and is like, hey, they seem kind of mean. You want to go hang out? You want to go hang out like somewhere? And it's just like, doesn't, and like talks about the same exact interests you have, talks about the same kind of fandoms. Like I'm imagining when I was in elementary school, I had a bunch of friends and I who used to love Kingdom Hearts. We used to just play out fights on like the playground doing that. And I think there's like one last image that shows up from her where there's a moment where she's kind of alone. It's the same little kid, the more masculine boy, just sort of sitting there and like not really certain where he belongs. And there's just an older version of Celis that's there, just smiling and just kind of saying, you're going to find your time. Don't worry. I think as a god of protection, specifically the protection of young children, he just takes the time to carve out the space to give what could have been otherwise a moment of happiness, to nurture the kids who didn't get to have that moment earlier in their life. And she just returns like a guardian standing like at attention at the front of the citadel with a pair of kids who look like they're hers if she had had kids.
I think that my question would be if there is a memory of Celis that she would like to share so that we could all do, return the favor in a way, even though we don't have the same kind of god of protection powers. if she would be interested in that.
I had to unmute myself. I think it would be a very similar memory to what Martin brought up of she's on the blacktop and there's just a lot of kids making fun of her for the way that she looked, a lot of the way that she was. Just really not sure. Like really sad and anxious about everything. And that seemed like the genesis of a lot of different moments.
I think Martin is sifting around through the detangled former knot of memories and finds what they're looking for and stretches it out and uses their cartoon hand as fingers and just like or as scissors and snaps it into different little chunks and passes them out to everybody. So that we can all influence some aspect of this memory of yours.
I think Jeb, in the Zephyr form, just kid, goes and hangs out with her, like walks over to Celis and is just, you know, definitely, I think that Jeb would immediately just ask, like, what Celis's favorite game is and like be like, I don't know what game it is. I want to play with you. Like, it doesn't matter what game it is. And is gonna just essentially just try to become besties with you. Just be as close, make sure that Celis knows that Jeb, it doesn't matter to Jeb any of that. It's us hanging out and our friends.
I think that I think somewhere in the middle of all this playing, Martin shows up, and I think in his initial, like, is the memory of himself and like who he was at the time, his hair was always very short, and here it's even as a kid, long flowing hair, and is wearing like this like tie-dye bandana that you can get at any like dime store at the time, and has a little table. And a little sign that says fortunes for free. And I start sort of just like reading your fortune. Like it's like I have like a cup of like this big like sipping cup full of tea and leaves and whatnot. And so I'm like taking like these big massive comical sips, and then I'm like swirling things around, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense for you. Okay, yeah, it's going to be, they say you're not supposed to tell too much because, you know, self-fulfilling prophecies and all kinds of different things can happen when you learn too much, but I do want you to know that it's going to work out just fine for you. See, it says right there. And I show like this incomprehensible mass of tea leaves just soaked and spilling crap all over the place. And
it has the impact of someone being like, no, I swear it's going to work out, but it's the conspiracy board meme picture.
Just like a red string of like push pins and like, I swear.
I think M's contribution is materializing kind of as whatever game it is that Jeb and Celis are playing. And while that is happening, there's that annoying gnat or fly that's kind of around in whatever the environment is that may be out of place, but for some reason doesn't feel annoying or like a disturbance. And I'm going to stretch the limits of this shape-shifting stuff and say that I'm also shape-shifting the sound waves in the environment as well to... or I'm transmuting the sound waves in the environment to whatever like music or sounds are comforting and joyful for you. Thinking back to, you know, the joy that like present day Celis received from the music at the party, trying to bring a multi-sensory experience to this memory to shape it in a way that is pleasing to Celis.
I think that Rayo would show up with like a kind of on a scooter in like a very kind of 90s fashion. Like I have a kind of big like I want to say that I have like a kind of fanny pack or something, but it's like an ethereal like fanny pack, so that I reach into it and I bring out a bunch of snacks and it just kind of keeps coming. And I'll show up and be like, did somebody order a new friend? And then be like, here's, and then just have a bunch of like snacks, like whatever it is that Celis finds to be the most fun or the most comforting. I just have a bunch of like kind of comfort foods, and there's enough for everybody who is here playing this game. So I think that would be my contribution to this memory if you've been feeling kind of ostracized and alone.
I am full out just imagining like a big ass like playground. Like some of it is like some parts of it are like the wood chip kind of playground. Some of it are like sandy, like kind of like playground, and it's full on like it's just like gushers and like the super sugary like high C5 ones that like you had to snap off the top of it. They're like the red that doesn't exist in nature. It's like a super fabricated dye red. She's just like there, probably like overwhelmed, but she's like because of the nature of the world I'm imagining, it's just sort of like she summons out like a sword and like a shield and like charges out somewhere to like go like do a fight against like someone else who appears. I imagine it's like it's not even a fully formed person, it's just her getting to imagine even more people getting to have fun, and like just like all the laughter that's happening that's not from us, she's just hearing all the laughter from the kids in the daylight hours. Just this super sweet, fucking nostalgic moment of gushers running around, a whole bunch of music playing that I'm having a lot of different songs going through. I'm having my mom's 60s hits going, like coming out in the background. I'm hearing freaking like Green Day playing there, and like it's a whole bunch of different stuff, but it's just like everyone gets to like enjoy themselves.
As each of these dream scenes or memory scenes have been happening, the picnic spread has been taking a different form little by little, particularly as each memory plays, thinking back to the outfit that Celis described with the like plate armor with the red, yellow, and orange up the side with the feathers. Thinking back to Jeb arriving and racing. Was it with a horse? I think. And
yes.
And Martin's memory of this sunset or sunrise. And Rayo appearing through this vortex. M has shapeshifted into a chariot with Pegasi that we are now sitting in. And around us is this vortex, and which protects all of us and Rayo from the light of the sunrise that is approaching. So there's it's darkness, but it's not this oppressive darkness. It's like a comforting blanket, if you will, to provide us with a new space that we are now kind of sitting on, or in, or within, or existing within. And it's the opening of the wagon of the chariot is still on the top of this building, overlooking the rest of the city, but specifically pointed towards the sun as it comes up.
Does anyone have any last details as we shift to maybe the epilogue of this time in the Zephyr, as we are nearing the end of our time? To close this out, I've already cried, so I'm ready to cry more.
I think I would just kind of quietly watch it, so then like and enjoy being present in the moment. And then after like the sun had come up, I'll say, "Let's come back and do this again tomorrow."
I think Jeb is definitely giving kids rides on the horse. Like, yeah, his name is Butterscotch. I'm like absolutely letting like the ones that are cool with Celis just be like, is this one good with you? No, no. Celis says you're not cool, so you can't get on my horse. And like just like do that. Also while like just shoving all of the gushers and fruit roll-ups, and I've got like a bunch of the tongue tattoos from the fruit roll-ups like all over my tongue. Like I'm having it. Jeb is having a great time acting as the kid bouncer with the horse. But absolutely agrees that we should go back and do it again.
I think for Martin, he is just it's back. I think he's shifted back into his blanket form now by this point, and it's just. I think this is to him the most normal he gets to be. He's not keeping track of things that are happening to him, whether he wants it to or not. He's not sort of being tossed on these waves of constantly shifting times. So I think he's really just laying out and has a little cartoon cup of tea in his little cartoon hand, and is just pouring it into his Sharpie mouth and just enjoying being here, and says absolutely when asked if they want to do this again tomorrow. I think maybe a tinge of bittersweet knowing what they have to go back to when they wake up, but overall happy.
And with that, I think the chariot will start moving its spectral form, lifting off of the roof of this building on the Pacific coast, and ethereally gliding through the sky, the Pegasi wings gently flapping before us, and slowly approaching until it gets so bright to the point where we can't really see the sunrise because we have kind of merged with the sunrise. And if it's all right with everybody, I'll say that's kind of like how the group transitions back into the daylight hours.
Works
We
for
all
me.
open our eyes, and it is the next morning.
Also, hello there, Nerds with Dice. You're coming in near the end of a very emotional and dreamscape-filled session of us here on Utopia for Bride Brunchathon, doing the Hierophant's Gone for a While. Thank you for coming in and giving us that little bit of hype. I think with that, with time in the daylight done and the time in the Zephyr done, that we can close out this moment. And I want to specifically close it out by reading again my favorite bit of text from the game that I think encapsulates so much of what we've done with this, which is simply, you are yourself there, every beautiful and strange part of you. I think this game is amazing for facilitating a way for us all to just be beautiful in all the strange and weird ways that we are. And that, everybody, is been our show. We have finished up doing The Hierophant's Gone Away for a While by Quinn B. Rodriguez. I will do the little finishing spiel and then let folks chime themselves out. This has been our show. Thank you to everyone who's been involved with Bride Brunchathon, whether it was for just a moment all of you came out to all of the games or you tuned out just to this one. Thank you so much for raising all this money to a good cause. Thank you to RK Wild for coming to us with the idea to do this, and all of the folks who've contributed their amazing games. We've been raising money for Black and Pink throughout the month of June, and oh my god, we got, what was it, 11, 20, 69, nice, at the very end of this. So as a last little thing, reminder, Black and Pink National, prison abolitionist organization supporting LGBTQIA Two-Spirit plus people and folks living with HIV/AIDS in the prison system, seeking liberation, anti-racist, feminist, queer liberationists, or anti-capitalists, seeking to break down the prison industrial complex that divides and separate families. We reached our goal by the end of the month, and this weekend has been one of many of BIMPOC games, BIMPOC design games performed by QTPOC. We are not going to have any other games after this point because this is the last one, so I'll just give this last space for folks to tell folks where we can find you, where we can, or any projects you're involved with. Hype yourself up, and just do that. I need a moment to collect my thoughts.
We'll go as our turn order. So my name is Lexi. I use she, her pronouns. You can find me on Twitter and on Twitch at BlackGirlMage. I pretty much just talk, tweet, play a lot of like tabletop role-playing games, mainly just D&D as of right now, but I'm slowly finding beautiful games such as this and Thirsty Sword Lesbians and all of these amazing games. So soon you will see me also tweeting about those games as well, and hopefully, running and playing in more of those. Just that's what you could find me doing. Keep an eye out for me.
I believe I'll go next. I'm Sebastian. I use they, them pronouns. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at SebastianUA. All of that's one word. UA is spelled Y-U-E. And I write games. I write some supplements for D&D. I've written one for Heart, the City Beneath. I'm working on my own game. And that I'll probably be tweeting about that at some point because I'm just figuring it all out. But thank you so much for having me. This has been a really great time to meet everyone, and thank you for watching the show.
All right, I'm Ron. You can find me at Ron Writes Words on Twitter. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them. And I have been playing and running games for years. This is my first time as a player this year and my first time ever on a stream, hopefully the first of many, looking to get way more involved. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for taking this trip with us.
I am JJ. I am, please just use JJ when referring to me in lieu of pronouns. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at JJ Divine, JJDVINE. I am kind of rebooting my online presence. So if you have seen me before, this will be my new account information. Follow me, find me, check me out. This is also my first stream. So, my first streamed game. I used to stream on my own with games and such, but participating with others, this was a blast. I had great fun. Thank you all for helping us reach this goal for Black and Pink. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the games throughout the month as well. But I look forward to participating more with y'all, and as Ron said, also hopefully the first of many streams to come.
Hello there, everybody. I am the emotional targeted assassin of feelings, Angela, who uses she, her pronouns, and you can find me at Phoenix24Fem on Twitter, or at PhilosophyFem on my Patreon, where I typically publish creature designs, game ideas, or poetry, which is my typical writing mainstay, where recently I managed to reach 200 published poems on Patreon, half of which are available for public viewing, the rest are patron locked. I am one half of the Queerly Yours relationship podcast with my partner of 10 plus years, where we are an interracial, both trans and polyamorous couple talking about a lot of things related to relationships. And I'm also available on Utopia for viewing in Cape and Blade, our alternating Thursdays Chimera RPG game that we have going on. And soon on Sundays, you can see me running Animon Story over at All Nerds Here, which is basically I get to run Digimon as a TTRPG, which is truly my young child self is screaming with happiness. And also, tomorrow you can find me over at the Hype Goblins channel at, I believe it's 8 p.m. EST, doing the last of our alpha playtesting of the Omens Rising RPG system, where I am actually a cultural writer for the game. I am designing one of the cultures known as the Veil Callers for that entire game that we've been building from the ground up. So I'm involved in a lot of things, and also if you need me for musical purposes, I am also a freelance musician. You can find me at the email listed in the chat right now. And also I'm also a game designer too, because I decided to convert all the Final Fantasy XIV jobs into Slayer's playbooks. I have 9 done, and I have 8 more to go until November comes when I'll have 19 total to do. So really, I have 10 more to go. Pray for me, people. Pray for me. But that's me, and that's it for this wonderful game. Thank you so much to Quinn B. Rodriguez for trusting us to do beta testing for this. And I think I can speak for all of us in saying we are all super hyped to see when this game gets released. Oh my God, this is so good and so wonderful for too many reasons to say, but I think I will let our producer guide us out as thank you everyone for tuning in, for donating, for being here for this happy Pride Month and happy Pride Brunchathons.
Oh my
Get over to you, Jess.
goodness. Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you so much, cast. This is your disembodied voice. As the producer, it may or may not be Jess. This month has been absolutely amazing. The fact that, this is Utopia's 1-year anniversary. This is our first charity stream, and you all blew it out of the water. We shot for the moon. 1,000 was a big stretch for us, and you all came through. So thank you. Please take time for yourselves to enjoy games, enjoy the people around you, and be proud of who you are. We are going to send off this event and raid I Need Diverse Games, who is with a lovely cast doing Dungeons and Do-Rags in honor of the Black as Fuck Roundtable. They are a talented group of people, and, just do what you gotta do. We love you all. Take care. Thank you again. Everybody wave out. Please go send some love. Just pop in and chat to the raid. Bye, all.